So let's set the stage. You just left the meeting with your boss and you found out that you'll be part of the project team for the company for implementing SAP S/4HANA. Now, you were part of the sales cycle where you provided requirements and saw the demonstrations and maybe even provided your input on which software to buy and even what implementation partner to use. But now you're going to be one of the people who are held accountable for the implementation for the company. Now, if this seems a lot of stress and worry to you, don't worry. We're going to break down several of the things that get you on track for starting off this project correctly for your area. The first thing is really going to be focusing on what is S/4HANA, so you get the language around the different ways of deploying it and what the software is. Then we'll move into some other aspects of the project, like what do you need to do to get prepared, and how do you set up your knowledge to set up the business processes so you can really talk to your implementation partner about what your desires are for requirements, and not just around these concepts, but actual deep inputs and outputs to drive that process. So like I said, let's just talk about S/4HANA and the deployment models so you have a good base level of knowledge. Let's get started. So welcome to the project. I know this is an exciting time for your company, and what looks ahead of you looks to be pretty daunting to go through an entire implementation and change out all of your systems for the new SAP S/4HANA. Completely understandable. So let's just talk about what SAP S/4HANA is and maybe the different deployment models if you're still in the decision stage, just to get you familiar with some of the nomenclature around SAP. So SAP is now delivered as a cloud product. And what that means is in previous versions, after you bought the software, you were going to go buy some hardware from Dell or HP. You're going to set it up in your server environment, load the software, and do a bunch of what's called basis work and get everything ready prior to starting the implementation or very early in the stages. Nowadays, all that is unnecessary. SAP has its own cloud and actually uses clouds from Google and Microsoft and Amazon to deploy their model, but it's fully supported by SAP. When you hear the words SAP Cloud, all you really are getting is SAP managing SAP for you. So they provide the hardware, the software, and some level of application support through the infrastructure up into where the company's security kind of comes into play. Now, there's work to be done by your technical team to connect that network to your network, and there's a bunch of preliminary work that takes a couple weeks as you onboard to the project. Now, you'll hear the word cloud, but we really have two different ways to achieve that. One is through a public cloud, and what that means is it is a shared resource except for the things that are your IP, like data and specific information like that. But the hardware and some of the application support is all shared. The other side is a private cloud, and that's just as if you were to house it in your own data center. It is completely private and unique to your company. No shared resources, but still having SAP support you on the back end with their full infrastructure and management application. Now, both the public cloud and the private cloud is the exact same piece of software. Now, the public cloud does get updates quite often. It's a quarterly update, and it's because with that shared resource, they really have a much faster method of implementing those changes. So in the public cloud, you get innovation on a quarterly cycle from SAP, which is very non-intrusive to your company. You simply can accept it or not accept that new functionality and keep running your business. And if you do want to accept the functionality, you just go through some testing and validations and you're able to implement it quite rapidly. So if you're really looking for a very standard system based upon all SAP best practices with minor changes across your business needs inside the application, the cloud really provides that level of innovation that's quite rapid and is very successful for people. Now, the private cloud is a more traditional style. You're going to get an annual update from SAP. The upgrade cycle is still much faster than it used to be, but it does take some extra effort to get through. But you have full capability of customizing that solution to your needs. You can take multiple best practices and merge them together. You can add custom integrations. You can even do the standard customization if you require to do something beyond what SAP provides in their best practices. So the public cloud, you think about, you're thinking of a 90 to 95% fit. You have your business processes from best practices. You have your data, you put in your company level organizational structure, and then you have about another 5 or 10% of small changes within the application. Whereas in the private cloud, it really is whatever system you want it to be. We still will go through a best practices approach and we'll do a fit to standard. And you have those capabilities of changing things around any function that you'd want. We just, as an implementation partner, they're going to ask you to limit those only where they create significant value. But the flexibility is there. And that's really the big difference between the public cloud and the private cloud, is that level of flexibility your company desires. Now, some industries, some people have regulatory requirements. They only can be supported by the private cloud because of that unique domain that you sit in, which is just like if it's sitting on your own servers. And so the public cloud may not be a good fit. And so as you go through that analysis, really take a look at what your desires are. And I would say, the way you want to look at it is you want to say, why doesn't the public cloud fit your model? And if you find it doesn't fit because of some extension or integration or business process, then you'd go to the private cloud as a natural spot. From a baseline software perspective, the public cloud, the private cloud, they're going to be identical. The same SAP best practices, the same innovative software. S4 has really become a digital age kind of application for SAP with a new Fiori application. As your visual interface, it's like running apps. It can be done on your cell phone. It can be done on your iPad. It can go through any of the web browsers. It's really made for the age of today. They're integrating full AI capabilities into it, and they really have leaned out the entire system. So if you have used a previous version of SAP or any of the other tier 1 applications, many of them had a lot of layers to create the dynamics of the application. And really with the new age of in-memory kind of databases and applications coming through the web, you really can thin out that application and really put that data right where you need it. So, getting to information is much more rapid. Getting to your desired reports and activities, it is a lot more interactive. And so it's just not like, hey, what are my sales? And it spits you an answer. As you work through the application, it's presenting you data as you go through it. And so it's a more back and forth kind of conversation compared to you just asking and it just providing. So it's we've seen a lot of companies. I've done about 10 implementations now over the past several years, and we're really seeing companies really get into the new digital age of their application, really learning how to use their data and really driving out some real operational improvements based upon the functionality that's coming within SAP. So all your standard modules will be out there. So you've got sales and distribution, you've got inventory management, warehouse management, finance, procurement, asset management around maintenance and support. So all the things that you know about SAP and the things you've learned maybe through your sales cycle are all available. They're going to try to take your individual project and put it into a size and scope that makes sense for an initial implementation. But we really want people to do is get on the best platform, being SAP S4, and really drive that innovation in a quarterly cycle. So you can sit there and say, okay, what does my business need? What is the new functionality SAP is providing? What innovation do I want to take advantage of? And continually to enhance that so you can really drive that automation and best practices throughout your environment. So let's just talk about, kind of a quick comparison of public cloud versus private cloud. Public cloud really is a full end-to-end solution, fully managed by SAP, on shared resources, and highly innovative with that quarterly update. You do need to accept a high level of best practices, so you're looking for that 90+% fit for your business processes. If that doesn't work, the private cloud is really where you're going to end. SAP still provides their high level of support, does all the application management, infrastructure management, hooks it to your network, makes it look like it's a seamless part of your IT organization, and really helps you drive that innovation. With that, you have a little more IT needs for managing that software because you have the customization flexibility that you don't have in the public cloud. Annually, there's going to be some level of updates and upgrades that you do, but still much easier than we would have done 5 or 10 years ago. So public cloud gives you that innovation cycle a little bit quicker. Private cloud gives you that security and more flexibility in the build of how you want it to be. Now, either one that you purchase, whether it be the public cloud, the private cloud, your focus on how to get an implementation done will be identical, especially in the beginning. We'll show you in the next video kind of where you can start, start developing your ideas about those requirements into a lower level of detail, talking about your inputs and outputs, and how you can go look at some of the SAP best practices to start relating to what you already naturally do. It's really good to stay informed on this process and to stay engaged on a more regular basis. Either way, the software is going to be the same. The application of that implementation will be the same. And from a baseline perspective, you're still getting 100% of all the innovation from SAP for those 30 years of work they've been doing. In Fortune 100 companies, they're one of the top applications out there. 2/3 of their companies are called small to medium-sized business. Those are companies that are less than a few $1 billion, all the way down to something in the $100 million range. So a wide variety of best practices are available for your industry, for your situation, and they really look for you to drive those best practices into your business and then taking your unique value proposition and driving that into the processes so you really can get the most value out of it. So now that we've talked about some of the differences between public cloud and private cloud, take a look at what you guys have purchased. And if you haven't purchased, hopefully this will help you make that final decision with the other criteria that you're using. But most likely, I would say 75% of my companies that I do business with are going with the private cloud for that flexibility. So if that's the case, as you go into the next area of your project, start preparing for the team and preparing your business processes. If you have a choice of looking at an SAP information and looking at public cloud or private cloud, just pick the right one for what you purchased. Many times they use those word cloud synonymous with what they're doing, and so just understand there is a little bit of a difference in how they deploy and what some of the support is around each of them. But from a business process perspective, you'd be comfortable looking at a lot of that information regardless which one you take. So I hope this was a good introduction of what SAP S/4 is, how it deploys, maybe the pros and cons for each one of them. And in the next video, we'll get into how you can get a little bit ahead of the implementation curve by start defining some of your business processes. I'd love to hear at the end of the comments which software you end up purchasing, whether it be the public cloud or the private cloud, and then also understand kind of what is your main concern as you go into that implementation. Is it time? It's going to be impacting you. Is it going to be what the business processes are? Is it going towards a best practices approach? Let me know what you have out there so we can help address those issues and make sure you're all covered. If you don't mind, please like the video. And if you like this video, please subscribe, as I'll be putting out a series that's more customer focused to help them get on track. I hope this was helpful. Thanks and have a great day.